Kwame woke up to the soft rays of sunlight slipping through his bedroom window. The room smelled faintly of breakfast, something sweet that his mother had probably cooked early in the morning. He stretched his arms and yawned, feeling the comfort of the warm bed under him. But the quiet of the morning was quickly broken by a familiar, lively sound: laughter. High-pitched, giggling laughter that filled the house with energy. It was Lindayo, his little sister. He rubbed his eyes and sat up, trying to get a clear view of the room. At first he thought she might be outside, but the laughter came from downstairs. He could hear the faint thump of little feet moving quickly across the wooden floor. Then came the sound of a soft meow. Their cat, Kiki, joining in the chaos. Kwame shook his head, smiling. That cat was always a part of the trouble when Lindayo was around. Curiosity got the better of him, and he swung his legs over the side of the bed. His feet touched the cold floor, making him shiver slightly. He quickly pulled on a pair of shorts and a t-shirt, not wanting to lose any more of the morning excitement. Quietly, he tiptoed toward the stairs, thinking he could watch the little scene without being noticed. When he reached the living room, his eyes widened a little. Lindayo was in full motion, running in circles around the room with Kiki darting between her legs. She squealed with delight every time the cat tried to dodge her. Cushions from the sofa had been tossed aside in what seemed like an obstacle course that she had invented herself. A small stack of books teetered on the edge of the table, and Kwame could feel his stomach tighten. He knew how easily accidents could happen when she got this energetic. Lindayo didn't see him yet. She was completely focused on her game, imagining herself as a great explorer, with Kiki as her tiny, furry sidekick. Her hair bounced as she ran, and her little feet made soft thumping noises on the wooden floor. Kwame quietly laughed, thinking about how serious she looked with her tongue sticking out a little in concentration. It was funny, but he also noticed how careless she was being. The books on the table were dangerously close to falling, and the cushions piled high could easily trip someone. Kwame slowly walked closer, trying to figure out the safest way to intervene. "Lindayo," he called softly, hoping to get her attention before anything happened. But she didn't hear him over her own laughter. She was too busy chasing Kiki around the sofa. Kwame sighed. He had seen this many times before. Every morning seemed like a little adventure for her, full of imagination and energy, but it also carried the risk of something going wrong. He remembered last week when she had tried to climb onto the bookshelf to reach her favorite storybook. Kwame had been busy in his room and didn't notice. The book fell and she almost toppled over too. He had rushed in just in time, but the memory made him more cautious now. He wanted to make sure nothing like that happened again. Kwame decided to approach slowly, stepping carefully over a stray cushion. Kiki hissed softly and ran behind the curtains, clearly scared of Kwame's sudden movement. Lindayo paused for a moment, noticing her brother coming closer. "Kwame, you want to play too?" she shouted excitedly. Her eyes sparkled with happiness, completely unaware of the little danger around her. Kwame smiled, kneeling down to her level. "Not right now," he said gently. "I just want to make sure everything is safe." Lindayo tilted her head, curiosity mixed with excitement. "Safe? What's safe?" she asked, bouncing slightly on her toes. "Safe means making sure you don't trip or hurt yourself," Kwame explained. He pointed to the books on the table. "These could fall if you bump into them. And the cushions on the floor, someone could step on them and slip." Lindayo nodded slowly, pretending to understand. But he could see her mind already wandering back to the game. She was ready to run again. Kwame realized that talking to her calmly was better than scolding. She was only 5 years old and full of energy. He needed to guide her gently, not make her afraid of having fun. So he suggested, "How about we move the cushions to the corner and put the books back on the shelf? Then you and Kiki can play all you want." Her eyes lit up. "Okay. Let's do it," she said, rushing over to help. Kwame laughed quietly. Together they began moving the scattered items. Lindayo was surprisingly careful, trying to follow his instructions. Kwame was proud of her. He realized that even little lessons could make a big difference in safety and fun. Once the living room was safer, Kwame leaned against the sofa, watching Lindayo start her game again. She ran in circles, jumped over the cushions he had arranged as safe stepping stones, and giggled whenever Kiki tried to chase her. Kwame felt a mix of relief and amusement. The room was still full of life, full of laughter, and yet it was safer now. He realized that small actions, like moving a few cushions and keeping books in place, could make mornings like this peaceful instead of dangerous. As he watched her, Kwame thought about the responsibility he carried as the older brother. He had to be alert not just for himself but for Lindayo too. The realization made him feel grown up, but also a little worried. He didn't want to ruin her fun, but he couldn't ignore the risks either. Balancing safety and play was tricky and he had to learn quickly. The morning continued with more laughter and light chaos. Kiki ran around the room, Lindayu danced like a little explorer, and Kwame made sure he stayed nearby, quietly correcting anything that seemed unsafe. Every time she jumped a little too high or ran too fast, he would be there, catching her or guiding her back to safety. It was tiring, but it also made him feel important. He realized that being responsible didn't just mean helping with chores or homework. It meant being attentive, caring, and ready to act at any moment. At one point, Lindayu tripped over a cushion that Kwame hadn't moved far enough. She tumbled forward but didn't fall completely, because Kwame was already reaching out. He caught her gently, holding her close for a moment. "See," he said softly, "that's why we need to be careful." She hugged him back, laughing nervously. "I almost fell," she exclaimed, and Kwame smiled, ruffling her hair. By mid-morning, the living room had returned to a calm state. Lindayu was now sitting on the sofa, coloring quietly, while Kiki curled up beside her. Kwame sat across from them, sipping water and feeling a sense of accomplishment. He had managed to keep her safe while still letting her enjoy her morning. It wasn't easy, but it felt rewarding. Kwame reflected on how easily small accidents could happen, even in a place that felt so safe, home. He realized that life required attention, especially when someone depended on you. Lindayu trusted him even if she didn't know it fully yet. And that trust was something he had to honor. He promised himself that he would always pay attention, even when it seemed unnecessary or boring. As the morning light grew stronger, Kwame felt a warm sense of contentment. The house was full of laughter, energy, and small lessons learned. He knew that today he had done something important. He had been responsible, kind, and alert. And most importantly, he had made sure his little sister could enjoy her morning safely, without the risk of an accident ruining the fun. After the busy morning in the living room, Kwame decided to take a short break and grab a snack. He walked into the kitchen thinking about a piece of bread with some peanut butter or maybe a slice of fruit. The house was quieter now, at least downstairs, and the faint smell of breakfast still lingered. He smiled to himself, remembering Lindayu's laughter earlier. It was always so full of life, but it also reminded him of how careful he had to be. As he opened the cupboard to look for something to eat, he suddenly heard the familiar sound of running feet above him. Lindayu was upstairs, probably playing in her room. The noise made Kwame pause. Normally he didn't mind her energy, but for some reason today he felt a small twinge of worry in his chest. Maybe it was the books from earlier, or maybe it was just the feeling that accidents could happen when he wasn't watching closely. He grabbed a slice of bread and sat down at the kitchen table, trying to relax. But his eyes kept glancing toward the stairs. He could imagine her little hands grabbing toys, her feet running over the carpet, and Kiki possibly darting in and out. He shook his head, trying to push the worry aside. "She's careful most of the time," he told himself, but the truth was he knew how unpredictable Lindayu could be. Just as he took a bite of his bread, a loud thud followed by a soft yelp echoed from the stairs. Kwame's heart jumped. He immediately dropped the bread and rushed toward the stairs. His mind raced, picturing all the things that could go wrong. Lindayu's room was at the top of the stairs, and he knew that even a small slip could cause her to fall. His feet moved quickly, almost running as he reached the staircase. When he got to the bottom of the stairs, he saw a chaotic scene. Lindayu's toys were scattered all over the floor near the bottom step. Small dolls, building blocks, and a tiny plastic car were lying in the way. Lindayu herself was right on the edge of tripping over a red block. Her arms flailed as she tried to keep balance, and Kwame's heart raced. He didn't think, he just acted. "Lindayu," he shouted, running forward. His hands reached out just in time and grabbed her little shoulders, steadying her. She blinked up at him, her eyes wide, a mix of surprise and embarrassment. You caught me," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. Kwame held her close for a moment, feeling his heartbeat slow down. He realized how close it had been. If he hadn't reacted so quickly, she could have fallen down the stairs. His chest tightened with worry and relief at the same time. He hugged her gently and whispered, "Be careful, okay? The stairs can be dangerous if your toys are all over the place." Lindayu nodded, still holding on to him. "I didn't mean to. I just wanted to play," she said softly. Kwame smiled, ruffling her hair. "I know, little one. I know. But you have to remember to keep the toys away from the stairs." Once she was steady, Kwame helped her pick up the scattered toys. He noticed how easily the blocks could slide under her small feet and cause her to fall. He carefully gathered the toys, placing them in a small basket he kept for her playthings. Lindayu followed, still quiet, but she seemed to understand the seriousness of what had almost happened. As they worked together, Kwame realized something important. Being her older brother wasn't just about playing or teasing her. It was about watching out for her, making sure she was safe, and guiding her in small ways. He had always thought accidents were just small things, but moments like this showed him that even tiny mistakes could be dangerous. After the toys were put away, Kwame guided Lindayo away from the stairs and into a safer space in her room. He sat on the floor beside her and looked around. Her room was usually messy but organized in a way only she understood. Still, the area near the stairs needed careful attention. He made a mental note to remind her every time she played to keep the floor clear. Lindayo, sensing her brother's concern, leaned against him. "Kwame, I don't want to fall," she said quietly. Her voice was small but full of trust. Kwame's heart softened. "You won't as long as we work together. I'll help you stay safe and you can enjoy your games," he said reassuringly. They spent the next few minutes talking about small ways to keep her safe. Kwame suggested placing her toys in the basket after playing, keeping the floor near the stairs clear, and even asking him to check if the area was safe before running around. Lindayo listened carefully, nodding at each instruction. He could see that she understood, not fully like an adult, but enough to remember next time she played. Kwame felt a mix of relief and responsibility. He realized that moments of care and attention could make a big difference. It wasn't just about preventing accidents, it was about teaching Lindayo habits that could help her stay safe on her own one day. He felt proud that he could be there for her, guiding her while still letting her enjoy her childhood. Afterward, they decided to take a short break. Kwame went back to the kitchen to finish his snack, this time feeling more relaxed. Lindayo sat nearby, coloring quietly and occasionally glancing at him with a smile. The near accident seemed to have changed something. She was still energetic, still playful, but she seemed more aware of her surroundings. Kwame thought about how quickly things could go wrong. One second, everything seemed fine. The next, a small mistake could turn into a dangerous moment. He realized that being careful didn't mean stopping fun, it meant being alert, thoughtful, and responsible. He promised himself that he would always be there to watch out for Lindayo, especially in moments like these. As he finished his snack, Kwame reflected on the small things he had learned that morning. Toys left near the stairs could be more dangerous than he realized. Running too fast or not paying attention could lead to a fall. But most importantly, being present, ready to act, and gentle with guidance could prevent accidents. He realized that safety was not just rules, it was care, attention, and love in action. Meanwhile, Lindayo colored happily, occasionally showing Kwame her drawings. "Look, Kwame. Kiki is in the garden," she said, holding up a picture of their cat chasing butterflies. Kwame smiled, feeling warmth in his chest. Despite the scare earlier, she was still joyful and full of energy. He was glad that he could help her stay safe without taking away her fun. As the morning sunlight streamed into her room, casting warm light on her colorful drawings, Kwame felt a sense of peace. The close call with the stairs reminded him of the importance of vigilance. He thought about how quickly life could change with a small accident and how important it was to be careful, especially with someone he loved so much. He decided to make a habit of checking the house before Lindayo played, especially near risky areas like stairs or the kitchen. Small steps could make a big difference, and he wanted to ensure that she was always protected. At the same time, he didn't want her to feel restricted or scared. Balance was important. Safety and fun could exist together as long as he was mindful. Kwame spent the rest of the morning keeping an eye on Lindayo. She ran around her room occasionally, but he was always nearby, ready to step in if needed. He also reminded her gently to place toys back in the basket after playing. She listened more carefully than usual, probably remembering the near fall earlier. The afternoon sun poured gently through the windows, casting warm light across the living room. Kwame sat on the sofa thinking about the morning's events. His heart still beat a little faster when he remembered how close Lindayo had come to falling down the stairs. The thought of it made him feel uneasy, but it also made him determined. He didn't want another close call to happen. Not again. He looked around the living room, noticing small things he had ignored before. A stack of magazines leaned dangerously on the corner of the coffee table. The carpet near the stairs had a few loose toys tucked under it. Even Kiki's little scratching post was in the way of the path Lindayo often ran along. Kwame realized that safety wasn't about one moment of attention. It was about creating an environment where accidents were less likely to happen at any time. Kwame stood up, stretching his arms. He decided to spend the afternoon making the house safer. He began by moving the magazines and books onto a low shelf where Lindayo couldn't reach them easily. He carefully rearranged the cushions on the sofa and moved the small table away from the path near the stairs. Every little adjustment made the room feel less chaotic and more secure. As he worked, Kwame thought about how easy it had been to overlook small dangers in the past. He had been focused on his own activities, playing games on his tablet, reading or just relaxing, while Lindayo played around him. He realized that being older came with responsibilities he hadn't fully appreciated before. Watching out for someone younger wasn't just about preventing big accidents, it was about noticing small things that could cause harm before they became serious problems. Once the living room was organized, Kwame turned his attention to Lindayo's room. He noticed a small pile of blocks that often spilled over onto the floor. He also saw that the edge of the rug near the doorway had curled up slightly, creating a trip hazard. He carefully flattened the rug and put the blocks into a basket. Kiki jumped around playfully, knocking over a pen or two, but Kwame patiently returned each item to its proper place. While organizing, Kwame thought about teaching Lindayo small tips for playing safely. He remembered how she had almost tripped that morning. If she understood how to avoid hazards herself, accidents would be less likely. He called her over gently. "Lindayo," he said, "come here for a moment." Lindayo ran toward him, her hair bouncing as always, and sat on the floor beside him. "Yes, Kwame?" she asked, curious. Kwame smiled. "I want to show you some ways to play safely around the house," he said. "Do you want to learn?" "Okay," she replied eagerly, her eyes shining. He began with simple instructions. First, always make sure your toys are away from the stairs. If a toy falls there, someone could trip. Lindayo nodded seriously. Second, don't run too fast near furniture. Jumping and running is fun, but it's important to be careful. Lindayo giggled but nodded again. Kwame continued, also if you see something on the floor that could hurt you, like a block or a pen, pick it up or ask me for help. And never climb on furniture without asking me or Mom first. We want to make sure you're safe. Lindayo listened attentively. She repeated each tip after Kwame as if trying to memorize them. Keep toys away from stairs. Don't run too fast near furniture. Pick up things from the floor. Don't climb without asking. Her little voice made Kwame smile. He realized that teaching her small lessons now could help her develop habits that would keep her safe even when he wasn't around. After their short lesson, Kwame decided to turn it into a game. "Let's see how fast you can clean up your toys safely," he said. "If you do it carefully, I'll give you a sticker." Lindayo's eyes lit up at the idea. She loved stickers. "I'll do it, Kwame. I'll do it right," she exclaimed. They spent the next few minutes moving toys together, laughing as they went. Kwame noticed that Lindayo was already more mindful. She was careful where she stepped, and she made sure the path near the stairs was clear. He felt proud. The morning's close call had turned into an afternoon of learning and fun. After tidying up, Kwame sat with Lindayo and watched her play. He realized that the world was full of small dangers, and even at home, accidents could happen in a second. But he also saw that a little guidance, patience, and attention could prevent many of these accidents. He promised himself to always be alert, to teach Lindayo when needed, and to make the house a safer place for her. Kwame also thought about the importance of being patient. It was easy to get frustrated when things got messy or when Lindayo didn't listen the first time. But he realized that patience was part of responsibility. Teaching someone how to be safe required time, calmness, and understanding. He tried to remember this as he helped her with small tasks, like placing blocks in the basket or making sure the floor was clear. As the afternoon continued, Kwame even showed Lindayo how to organize her play area so she could reach her favorite toys safely without climbing on furniture. He explained, "If your toys are easy to reach, you won't have to climb or stretch too much. That keeps you safe." Lindayo listened carefully and followed his instructions. Together, they arranged her room in a way that was both fun and safe. Kwame noticed that Lindayo was becoming more aware of her surroundings. She began to look at the floor before running, avoided stepping on scattered toys, and even reminded Kiki not to get in her way. Kwame felt proud. These small lessons were already making a difference, and he knew they would help her in the future. After organizing the house and teaching Lindayo, Kwame took a moment to rest. He sat on the sofa, sipping water, and thought about how simple actions could prevent accidents. Moving a rug, putting toys in a basket, arranging furniture, all of these small efforts could make a big difference. He realized that safety wasn't about fear, it was about awareness and care. Kwame looked at Lindayo, who was happily coloring at the small table in her room. She seemed calmer and more focused than earlier. Her giggles still filled the house, but now they were mixed with a sense of awareness. Kwame smiled, realizing that he had not only made the house safer but also helped her develop habits that could keep her safe in the future. The afternoon sun slowly began to sink, casting long shadows across the floor. Kwame felt a quiet satisfaction. He had spent hours thinking, acting, and teaching. And even though it had been tiring, he knew it was worth it. Lindai's safety mattered more than anything, and being there for her, guiding her, and keeping her safe was his responsibility. As he watched Lindai put the last of her toys back into the basket, Kwame reflected on how small actions could lead to big changes. He realized that life was full of little risks, and paying attention could prevent many problems before they happened. He promised himself that he would always remain alert, teach her lessons when needed, and never ignore potential dangers, even if they seemed small. Finally, Kwame and Lindai sat together near the window, watching the sunlight fade and the shadows grow long. Kiki curled up beside them, purring softly. Lindai leaned against her brother and said, "Kwame, I like it when you help me." Kwame smiled and gently hugged her. "And I like helping you, little one. We'll always make sure you're safe, okay?" Lindai nodded, resting her head against him. "Okay, Kwame," she whispered. Kwame looked around the room one last time. Everything was neat, organized, and safe. The stairs were clear, the toys were in the basket, and Lindai was calm and happy. He realized that being an older brother meant thinking ahead, paying attention, and acting with care. It wasn't always easy, but it was important. And as long as he stayed alert and patient, he knew that he could keep Lindai safe while letting her enjoy her childhood. The quiet of the late afternoon filled the room, broken only by the occasional soft giggle of Lindai or the gentle purr of Kiki. Kwame felt proud, responsible, and ready for whatever the next moment might bring. Today had been a lesson not just for Lindai but for him too. He had learned how important it was to watch out, care for others, and act before accidents happened. And as he sat there, holding his little sister close, he knew that this was only the beginning of learning to keep her safe every single day. The next morning, sunlight streamed gently through the windows, filling the house with warmth. Kwame woke early thinking about the lessons he had learned the day before. He knew that simply telling Lindai how to play safely was not enough. He needed to put his plans into action and stay alert while she played. Today he decided he would make sure nothing dangerous happened, and at the same time he would help her learn to be careful herself. After a quick breakfast, Kwame noticed Lindai bouncing around the living room with Kiki following her every step. She seemed full of energy, ready to play her favorite game of catch the cat. Kwame smiled but reminded himself to pay attention. The toys were neatly arranged and the floor was clear, thanks to yesterday's effort, but he knew that even small accidents could happen in a second. "Lindai," Kwame said gently, kneeling down beside her. "Today I'll watch while you play. You can run and jump, but I'll be here to help if anything happens. Remember to keep the toys in their place." Lindai's eyes lit up with excitement. "Okay, Kwame. I'll be careful," she shouted as she ran toward the sofa, careful not to knock anything over. Kwame chuckled quietly. She had always been lively, and he had learned that guiding her gently worked better than scolding or shouting. The morning passed peacefully. Lindai ran, laughed, and played with Kiki, while Kwame stayed nearby, moving silently when necessary to prevent accidents. At one point, Lindai tried to climb the small bookshelf to reach her coloring books. Kwame was immediately there, holding her hand and helping her down safely. She giggled and thanked him, learning once again the importance of asking for help. Later, while Kwame was watching her play, Lindai accidentally knocked over a cup of water near the door. Water spilled onto the floor, forming a small puddle. In the past, this might have caused Kwame to scold her, but today he remembered the lessons he had learned. Accidents happen and patience was more important than anger. He quickly grabbed a towel and knelt down beside her. "It's okay, Lindai. Let's clean this up together," he said softly. Lindai looked worried at first, but then she smiled, realizing that her brother was helping her, not punishing her. Together, they wiped the water carefully, making sure the floor was dry. Kwame also explained, "See, spills happen sometimes. That's why we need to be careful and clean them up right away so no one slips." Lindai nodded, understanding the importance of the lesson. She seemed proud to help, and Kwame felt a warm glow in his chest. He realized that paying attention and guiding her with kindness was not just about keeping her safe, it was about helping her learn responsibility too. The day continued with more games. Lindai built a tower with blocks, jumped over the cushions and ran across the room pretending to be an explorer. Kwame stayed close, subtly moving objects that could have been hazards. When she tripped slightly over a toy, he was right there to steady her. She looked at him with trust, knowing he would always protect her. Kwame also started introducing small challenges to teach her awareness. He asked her to place toys back in their basket after playing, to check the floor before running, and even to look around for anything that could cause trouble. Lindau took it seriously, trying her best to follow his instructions. Each time she succeeded, Kwame praised her gently. "Great job, Lindau. See how being careful helps us have more fun safely." As the afternoon sun climbed higher, Kwame noticed something important. The house felt calmer. There were still sounds of laughter and playful running, but it was controlled. The chaos of yesterday's morning was gone. Lindau was enjoying herself, and Kwame was able to supervise without stress. He realized that planning ahead, paying attention, and teaching her small lessons could literally prevent accidents and make the house a safer place. During a short break, Kwame sat with Lindau on the sofa and offered her a snack. She munched happily while Kiki curled up beside them. Kwame reflected on the morning. He felt proud of how he had put his lessons into action. It wasn't enough to organize the house. He needed to stay alert and guide her patiently. He realized that being responsible was more than just moving objects. It was about being present, aware, and proactive. After the break, Lindau wanted to play a new game, pretending the living room was a jungle. Kwame agreed, watching her carefully as she ran between cushions and jumped over safe obstacles he had arranged. He even joined in, pretending to be a friendly tiger, making her laugh. At one point, she tried to balance on the edge of the sofa, and Kwame gently guided her back to safety. "Remember," he said softly, "safety first, even when we have fun." Lindau nodded and laughed. She seemed to understand that having fun and being safe could go together. Kwame felt happy seeing her enjoy herself without being at risk. He realized that his presence and attention had changed the way she played. She was still energetic, still imaginative, but now she was aware of her surroundings. Later, Kwame suggested they play a game called Spot the Safe Path. He laid down cushions and small toys in a line and asked Lindau to step carefully from one safe spot to another. She loved the game, laughing as she balanced and hopped along. Kwame watched closely, helping her adjust her steps when necessary. The game was fun, but it also taught her to look carefully where she stepped. He was thrilled that she could learn safety while still enjoying her play. As the afternoon went on, Kwame realized something important. Being an older brother wasn't just about stopping accidents, it was about teaching, guiding, and being patient. Lindau looked up to him, trusted him, and learned from him. Each small lesson he taught her today had made a difference. She was safer, more confident, and happier because he had paid attention. The day began to wind down and the house grew quiet. Lindau sat on the floor, arranging her toys neatly in the basket. Kiki purred softly beside her, enjoying the calm. Kwame watched them both, feeling a deep sense of satisfaction. The morning had been filled with small challenges, accidents avoided, and lessons learned, but it had been worth it. He knew that his attention and care had helped Lindau stay safe and learn valuable habits. Kwame also realized that supervising Lindau didn't mean he had to control everything. He learned to balance guidance with freedom, letting her play while still being alert. This balance was important. It allowed her to enjoy her childhood while staying safe, and it strengthened the trust and bond between them. Before dinner, Kwame decided to review the day with Lindau. "See how being careful and paying attention helped today?" he asked gently. Lindau nodded eagerly. "Yes, Kwame. I didn't fall and I cleaned up the water," she said proudly. Kwame smiled, ruffling her hair. "Exactly. And that's why we practice safety. It keeps everyone happy and healthy." As evening approached, Kwame felt proud and content. Today had been a lesson in responsibility, patience, and care. He realized that watching out for someone you love is not always easy, but it is important. Accidents can happen in a second, but a little attention and guidance could prevent them. Lindau, sensing her brother's calm and caring presence, leaned against him. "Thank you, Kwame," she whispered. "I like it when you help me." Kwame hugged her gently, feeling warmth in his chest. "And I like helping you, Lindau. I'll always watch out for you." Kwame thought about the future. He knew there would be more spills, more toys scattered across the floor, and more playful chaos. But he also knew that as long as he stayed alert, guided her patiently, and taught her small lessons, she would be safe. He realized that responsibility was about action, presence, and love, not just rules or warnings. The sun finally began to set, casting long shadows across the living room. Lindau sat quietly, coloring and humming softly, while Kiki stretched and purred beside her. Kwame watched them both, feeling a deep sense of satisfaction. Today had been more than just a day of play, it had been a day of learning, bonding, and practicing safety. He realized that paying attention could literally save a life, and he felt grateful that he could be there for Lindayu, guiding her with care and love. Kwame smiled, thinking about the bond they shared. The house was calmer, safer, and filled with laughter. The lessons of today would stay with both of them. Lindayu had learned to be careful, and Kwame had learned how important it was to act with patience and attention. Together, they had turned a simple day of play into a moment of growth and safety. As the evening grew darker, Kwame tucked Lindayu into bed. She yawned, looking sleepy but happy. "Good night, Kwame," she murmured. He kissed her forehead gently. "Good night, little one. Sleep well. Tomorrow we'll have another safe and fun day," he whispered. Kwame left her room quietly, feeling proud and fulfilled. Today had taught him that being responsible, alert, and patient could make a big difference. He knew that accidents could happen anytime, but with care, guidance, and attention he could help prevent them. Most importantly, he realized that his love and presence could make Lindayu feel safe and confident, and that was worth everything. The sun was slowly sinking, painting the sky with soft orange and pink colors that spilled into the living room. Kwame sat quietly on the sofa, glancing around the house. Everything seemed calm, peaceful, and safe. The toys were neatly stored in their baskets, the cushions were arranged in their proper places, and even Kiki, the little cat, had curled up on the soft carpet, purring softly. The house that had been full of chaos and small accidents over the past days now felt like a place of warmth and care. Across the room, Lindayu was sitting at the small table, coloring happily in her notebook. She hummed softly to herself, lost in her creative world, occasionally glancing up at Kwame with a smile. He watched her quietly, a gentle smile spreading across his face. It had been a long few days, full of learning, teaching, and small moments of worry, but now, seeing her content and safe, he felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Kwame's mind wandered back to the mornings they had spent together. He remembered the first close call when Lindayu almost fell near the stairs. The memory made his heart race slightly even now. But he also remembered how he had acted quickly, guided her, and made the house safer. Those moments had taught him something very important. Being responsible was not just about moving objects or organizing the house. It was about being aware, acting with care, and protecting someone you love. He thought about all the lessons he had taught Lindayu. From picking up toys to watching where she stepped, to asking for help when climbing furniture, each lesson was a small step toward her safety and her understanding of responsibility. Kwame realized that these lessons had not only kept her safe but had also helped her gain confidence. She was learning how to care for herself, even as he remained there to guide her. Kwame leaned back, reflecting on the deeper meaning of responsibility. It wasn't about being strict or controlling. It was about caring, patience, and love. Every time he gently corrected her, helped her clean a spill, or reminded her to watch her step, he was showing her love in action. The realization warmed his heart. He understood that these simple acts of care were more powerful than any words he could say. Lindayu looked up from her notebook and noticed her brother lost in thought. She smiled, her little eyes sparkling in the soft light of the evening. "Kwame?" she asked softly, her voice curious but calm. "Yes, Lindayu?" he replied, turning his gaze toward her. "Do you like it when I listen to you and clean up my toys?" she asked, tilting her head slightly. Kwame smiled and nodded. "I do, little one. I really do. But more than that, I like seeing you safe and happy. That's what matters most." Lindayu thought about this for a moment. Then, without warning, she stood up and ran into his arms, hugging him tightly. "I love you, Kwame," she whispered. Kwame hugged her back gently, feeling the warmth of her tiny arms around him. He whispered softly, "I love you too, Lindayu. We've got each other's backs always." The words felt powerful, full of meaning, and he realized that everything he had done over the past days, the organizing, the teaching, the watching, had brought them closer together. Their bond was stronger, deeper, and filled with trust. As they separated from the hug, Kwame looked at the notebook where Lindayu had been coloring. The drawings were bright and cheerful, filled with little pictures of their house, Kiki, and even Kwame himself. It was clear that she was expressing her feelings of happiness and safety through her art. Kwame felt proud and touched. He realized that safety, care, and love were all connected, and they could be shown in small ways like organizing toys, watching someone play, or spending time together. Kwame also reflected on the changes he had noticed in Lindayu over the past days. She had become more mindful, more careful, and yet still playful and full of imagination. She was learning responsibility in a gentle, natural way. He realized that guiding someone with patience and love allowed them to grow while keeping their joy intact. This understanding gave him a deep sense of pride and purpose. The evening shadows grew longer, and the house took on a quiet, peaceful atmosphere. Kwame decided to take a few minutes to review everything he had done that day. He remembered moving the toys, cleaning up the spilled water, teaching Lindayu safe habits, and supervising her play without making her feel restricted. Each action, though small, had made a difference. He understood that responsibility was not about grand gestures but about consistent care, attentiveness, and love in everyday life. Kwame glanced at Lindayu again. She had now picked up some crayons and started coloring a picture of Kiki sleeping on the carpet. She hummed happily, occasionally showing her brother her progress. Kwame smiled. He realized that trust and guidance worked together. Because he had been present, Lindayu felt secure enough to explore, play, and express herself freely. She knew he would be there if she needed help, and that gave her confidence. He thought about how easy it would have been to ignore small dangers, to think that little things like scattered toys or spills didn't matter. But the close calls of the past few days had shown him otherwise. Small moments required attention, and even tiny acts of care could prevent accidents and build trust. He understood that safety was more than rules, it was action combined with love. Kwame also felt gratitude for the lessons he himself had learned. He had discovered the importance of patience, careful observation, and proactive thinking. He had realized that caring for someone meant putting thought into small details, anticipating possible risks, and teaching gently without taking away fun. These lessons he knew would stay with him forever, not just with Lindayu but in everything he did. As the sun dipped lower, casting golden rays across the living room, Kwame quietly admired the house. Everything seemed in place, orderly yet lived in. The laughter and small chaos of the past days had taught him that a safe environment was not a sterile one, but a balanced place where fun and safety could exist together. He was proud that he had been able to create this balance. Lindayu suddenly looked up from her coloring again. "Kwame, do you think I can keep all my toys tidy from now on?" she asked, hope and determination in her voice. Kwame smiled warmly. "I know you can, little one. And I'll help you when you need it. But I believe you're learning how to do it yourself too," he said. Her face lit up with pride. "I'll try my best," she said firmly. Kwame felt a deep sense of love and gratitude. He realized that guiding someone you care about was as much about teaching them confidence as it was about keeping them safe. Lindayu was learning, growing, and enjoying herself, and he was there to support her every step of the way. That was more than responsibility, it was love in action. The house grew quieter as evening approached, the soft sounds of the outside world filtering through the windows. Birds chirped softly, and a gentle breeze rustled the leaves of the nearby trees. Inside, Kwame and Lindayu shared a calm moment, sitting together, the warmth of the day and the safety they had built filling the room. Kiki purred gently at their feet, completing the feeling of peace. Kwame thought about how far they had come. From a near accident to teaching safety and learning patience, the journey had been full of small moments, each important in its own way. He realized that these moments were what made life meaningful. The safety, care, guidance, and trust they shared now were not just for today, they would last a lifetime. Lindayu put down her crayon and looked at Kwame. "Kwame, I love our house. I love how safe it is and how much fun I can have," she said softly. Her words touched him deeply. He understood that creating safety, trust, and care gave others the confidence to enjoy life fully. Kwame smiled and held her hand gently. "I love it too, Lindayu. And I love that we can play, learn, and stay safe together. That's what family is for," he said. As darkness slowly fell, the living room glowed with the soft light of the evening. Kwame and Lindayu remained together, coloring, talking, and enjoying the quiet peace. The lessons of the past days had brought them closer, strengthened their bond, and taught them both the importance of care, attention, and love. Kwame realized that being responsible was not a burden, it was a privilege. Watching over Lindayu, guiding her, and ensuring her safety gave him purpose. It reminded him that love and responsibility were intertwined, and small actions could make a life safer and happier. Lindayu suddenly leaned over and hugged him tightly again, resting her head on his chest. "Thank you, Kwame," she whispered. "I feel safe with you." Kwame hugged her back, holding her close. "And I feel lucky to have you, Lindayu. We've got each other's backs always," he whispered. The words carried a promise that went beyond the moment. They spoke of trust, love, and lifelong care. As the night settled in, Kwame watched Lindayu finish her drawing. She looked up at him with sleepy eyes, smiling. He smiled back, feeling gratitude for the small but important moments that had passed. The spills, the near accidents, the teaching, the supervision, and the laughter. Each moment had taught him more about patience, love, and the importance of being present. He realized that life was made up of countless small moments like these, and paying attention to them made all the difference. The love he showed through care and vigilance was the strongest safety net of all. And as Lindai yawned and hugged him one last time before bed, Kwame knew that being responsible and caring wasn't just about safety, it was about love, trust, and family.